Much for getting your day going with us as we help you plan for the big events in your neighborhood.
That's right. The Weather Channel has you covered from coast to coast.
Now, overnight, howling winds, including some that reached 100 miles per hour, tore across the central U.S. And now those storms are beginning to push a little bit farther to the east and south, but thankfully not as intense as they were last night, late in the evening.
Yeah, such a busy time. I was, watching the National Weather Service out of Chicago issuing all those alerts, and I'm like, man, I bet when they get off shift tonight or when everything is done, they are going to be exhausted. What a busy evening.
Yeah, it was extreme, right? In fact, check out some of the damage from the severe.
Let's talk about it because we, as mentioned, are not finished with that risk for severe weather or that risk for flooding. We've got this frontal boundary. It is going to help to trigger some more storms. It's interacting with hot, humid air out in front of that front, and when that happens, it kind of acts like a squeegee and helps to get some of that rain really going. We've got flood watches up from Springfield through Rolla, there through southern Missouri. We're stretching that across southern Illinois, all the way up into places like Columbus and Cincinnati, Ohio, Louisville. You're included in those flood alerts as well. The ground is pretty soggy, and we're adding more rain onto that, heavy rain at times because the atmosphere has quite a bit of moisture to work with. Our risk for severe storms today, you can see a couple different areas that we're going to watch across the Central Plains, stretching that over across the mid-Mississippi Valley into the Ohio River Valley as well. Those storms could have some gusty winds, some hail with them, and certainly some heavy rain is the concern. We're getting some of those storms bubbling up heading through the early afternoon. Some of those could have some large hail with them as well. These two different complexes kind of blasting to the east as we head into your 6 o'clock hour. So you're getting off of work. You could be dealing with some of these storms, say, around Indianapolis. Maybe plan for that accordingly. But you'll also notice we've got these storms that are beginning to show up on the map there across portions of the plains. Heading into the evening, it's continuing. This isn't one of those systems that's kind of losing its steam. It's continuing. We're seeing that chance for stronger storms into the evening. Springfield, you guys are getting in on that, stretching down into places like Branson as well. So I know a popular area for vacation this time of year is to be around Branson. Maybe you're spending some time there. You want to keep an eye on the forecast. Now, waking up early Wednesday morning, we're seeing that across portions of Oklahoma over into Arkansas, and some of those storms are still going to be putting down some heavy rain. Tomorrow we've got that risk, very isolated risk for some severe storms, but nonetheless some of them could get a little bit on the feisty side. That is going to be there along that front range. We're also keeping our eye on that possibility for some flash flooding for a wider area as well. Huge swath of real estate, Dr. Postel, that is going to have rounds and rounds of rain. We already saw some of those storms in the Northeast yesterday, and we're not done with that yet. Not rounds of rain. A lot of us are looking forward to that because, man, the grasses are starting to turn brown, right? For some of us, it has been so hot, a little shower can make all of the difference. So here's what's going on. We've got this frontal boundary. It's going to sink south, and it's going to kind of end up getting stuck there a bit. The cold front is interacting with this tropical moisture. Whenever it interacts with tropical moisture, that is going to bring us heavy rain. What happens, though, is this front ends up stalling out. So it's got this front stalled, interacting with the tropical moisture kind of over and over again. And then we're adding in some upper level disturbances or some upper level reinforcement to get that rain going. So you are just wringing the tropical moisture out of the atmosphere. We're putting that on areas that have already seen quite a bit of rain recently. You can see the coastal areas of North Carolina up into coastal Virginia where you see the orange here. That's 5 to 8 inches of rain, but a lot of us still need it. We're dealing with drought conditions, severe, moderate, and you can see this extreme drought that's begun to show up there across portions of the Carolinas, and we are dousing that area with rain. Mother Nature is like, all right, I see you. Let's get that grass back to a little green, right? But with that, especially where we have the extreme drought, the ground is dry. That makes it hard for that water to actually soak in really efficiently. So that is going to lead us to a better chance of some flash flooding. And then we're going to stretch that all the way back through the lower Mississippi River Valley for your Thursday, again into Friday and early Saturday from the Carolinas back into Texas with that risk for some flash flooding because we're just going to have rounds and rounds of rain. It's like you need the rain, you just don't want too much of it, but rarely do we ever just get that perfect balance. Each afternoon, even into the overnight hours with that stalled frontal boundary, that is our focal point. It traps that moisture across the southeast, and that is going to be hanging around into the weekend. This is one of those weekends where maybe you catch up on your summer cleaning because a lot of us are going to be dealing with rain round after round. Alex. The winds like we have with some of these severe thunderstorm warnings, that is enough to kind of blow things around, not what you want to be on the road during. So showing that radar view, we've got just a plethora of severe thunderstorm warnings coming up over that I-29 corridor. This this particular severe thunderstorm warning, including portions, especially western portions of Kansas City, Overland Park as well until 8:30. Considerable threat tag on this because we could see 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. That is going to do some damage. That's going to blow around those high-profile vehicles that could bring trees and tree limbs down. So you want to take that very seriously. This is moving to the east around 35, 45 miles an hour along that I-70 corridor. So it's going to move on pretty quickly. If you're in Overland Park, if you're in Kansas City, I'd say wait until this clears out. This isn't going to be one of those things that lasts hours and hours. Let this main line of storminess with this considerable threat on it get past and then head out the door if you can just wait on it. You can see we are seeing the indication with velocity here of some of those winds almost reaching that 70-mile-per-hour gust, and that is, you know, a little bit up. So we are going to see that possibility for those storms to bring those gusty winds down to the surface, maybe blow some debris around. As I said, blow those high-profile vehicles around. Just better off to wait until this passes through. Timing it out for you, 8:30 in Overland Park, so that's closing in on you in just the next couple minutes, 10 minutes or so. Kansas City, 8:41, North Kansas City, 8:44. Raytown around 8:53. So as you look at that timing on there, maybe plan on avoiding these storms because you don't want to be out in those severe thunderstorms. Some of them have a little bit of small hail with them, but Alex, the main thing that we're considered with these storms or concerned about with these storms is that risk for those damaging winds. Of course, heavy rain and lightning with that as well.
Well, now pushing into Missouri, right around the Kansas City metro, got some big storms and a number of severe thunderstorm warnings that are in place right now.
That's right. Not just your run-of-the-mill thunderstorm warning either. We've got the considerable threat tag on that. So that takes it a little bit of a level up. We've got that risk for wind gusts around 70 miles an hour. We're starting to see the leading edge of this move into Kansas City now. So Kansas City, Overland Park, that's until 9 a.m. If you can wait this one out as you're heading off to work this morning, I'd wait that one out because it's packing a punch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some big winds maybe accompanying this here. Again, coming right on into the city here, kind of that leading edge here. And we'll kind of time out that zone where we'll be watching those stronger winds push towards, again, coming right through the heart of the city, essentially right around now, then heading over towards Centropolis at about 8:44, Raytown at 8:48, and Independence as we get to about 8:54 there. So be prepared for strong wind gusts and some very heavy rain coming in with that storm.
Yeah, that's the type of wind, rain and wind that's going to be blinding. The windshield wipers aren't going to do much. Let's talk about what has been realized with this kind of pocket of storminess, because it has already had some 70-mile wind reports there in Lawrence, obviously well to the west of Kansas City, 60-mile wind reports with that as well, and then some downed wires. So those are the types of things you don't want to be dealing with as you're heading off to work this morning.
No, exactly. If you can wait this out, that would certainly be the thing to do. Just wait for this. It is moving fairly quickly, so wait for this to push eastbound, and then you'll be looking much, much better here in the wake of this particular storm there. Zooming back out, more storms that we are following here as you work your way east into a bit of Illinois. We've been watching this area south and east of St. Louis, where there's been a lot of heavy rain adding up there in and around the Mount Vernon area. And this is an area that we're going to be watching through tomorrow here for that risk for more flooding. Flood watches, they are up.
Oh, yeah, it's going to not get any better either, as you can see, because more rain is on the way. And then everyone trying to get out there, clean up, maybe pick up from yesterday. Not going to have much luck across this region once again because we have that risk for some severe storms. Now, not storming all day, but you're still going to have to plan around when those storms begin to bubble up later on today.
All right, so let's take you through it. Future radar time. We'll be watching again more areas of storms progressing into the spots that are pretty wet today. I mean, 4 or 5 o'clock, we got those bigger storms still hanging out in southeast of St. Louis. Another batch comes across southeastern Missouri as we head into tonight. We just can't get a break.
Just throw it at the map, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just here either, Dr. Postel. The north, but it's still going to be a little wet out there. You might want to give yourself a little bit of extra time as you're heading out for work this morning. The roads are going to be a little wet in some places, and there will still be some rain hanging around. You can see a few different severe thunderstorm warnings that we have going on around Kansas City, and then just a little bit farther east there north of that I-70 corridor. Taking a closer look at this severe thunderstorm warning, you'll notice most of the heaviest rain is for the northern portions of Kansas City, Overland Park. You were included in this warning too. That's until 9 a.m. You see that threat considerable tag on this, and that is telling us that we've got winds up around 70 miles an hour. We've seen this realized a little bit farther west as these storms were moving through, so they have been packing that punch. We've seen some reports coming out from that. And then timing this out for you, that main leading edge of some of those gustier winds going to continue progressing east of Kansas City. Raytown around 8:46, Lee's Summit around 8:57. This isn't like a huge, massive line of storms. It's going to take hours to move through. So if it's starting to approach you, if you see it off to the west, just let it move through and then head out. You don't want to be dealing with those gusty winds as you're kicking off your Tuesday morning. We've had winds up to around 70 miles an hour, a report there in Lawrence. So we've already seen some of these damaging wind gusts, realize some downed wires near Hollingsworth Road. So that is going to be one of those things that you don't want to run into as you're heading out for work either. Heavy rain also associated with this. When you have 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts possible and heavy rain, those windshield wipers aren't doing anything. That umbrella is being nothing but a nuisance. So better to just not have to deal with this as you're heading out. Give it just a little bit more time. And then we'll see this move through. Still some light rain hanging around, though. And guys, you know what's happening. We got to keep our eye on that risk for storms again later on. Dr. Postel, it's not just this that we're watching. It's also here. Let's all give ourselves just a little bit of time to let the severe weather pass. You might still deal with a little bit of rain. The roads are still going to be wet, but at least you won't be out in 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. We've got a couple different severe thunderstorm warnings that we're watching. This area here around Kansas City and north along the I-35 corridor, and then you can see a couple more severe thunderstorm warnings that we're watching just to the east as well. Taking another look at our severe thunderstorm warning for the Kansas City area, that is lasting until 9 a.m. So about 10 minutes left on that there. Overland Park, you're included in that, but of course most of the heavier stuff has moved past there. That is moving to the east at about 40 miles per hour ish. Has that considerable threat tag on it because you could see 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. That is enough to bring down some tree limbs, trees, and blow around those high-profile vehicles. So you don't want to be out on the road in that if you can avoid it. Timing out the leading edge of some of those heftier winds, Independence around 850, Grain Valley around 911. And we're going to see this kind of continue progressing east along that I-70 corridor, Blue Springs around 9 a.m. So if you're there, maybe just wait it out a little bit, or if you can get to where you're going before that storminess gets there, that's your best bet. But what you don't want to be doing is rushing in that heavy rain and in that wind. Worst way to start out your Tuesday is hydroplaning off the road or something like that when you could have just waited an extra 10 minutes. Lawrence, we've had those winds gusting up to 70 miles an hour with these same kind of cluster of storminess. You can see some of our other reports here. Power lines are reported to be down on 620 South 4th Street. So that's also not what you want to be dealing with. These storms have packed a punch. They've been enough to bring down some power lines, to bring down some wires, and that is dangerous. You don't want to run into that. You don't want to be dealing with that. That could back up your traffic. This is what I always think when we're dealing with something like this, with this severe thunderstorm warning. You could wait it out and wait 15 minutes, wait for it to pass, and maybe you're a little bit late, or you could be sitting on the highway for an extra 10 to 15 minutes with all the traffic, with everyone around you dealing with this. So, you know, if you need an excuse, tell them Felicia at the Weather Channel said you could be late this morning, so you're not driving through a severe thunderstorm warning, because those are packing quite the punch this morning. Another one that we're watching with this considerable threat tag, same thing for some really gusty winds, maybe a bit of hail closing in on Salisbury right now. Huntsville, Moberly, Salisbury all included in that until 9:30. Those are kind of traveling along that Highway 24 corridor currently. And what you'll notice is also probably some heavy rain, maybe a bit of hail, maybe some penny-sized hail. That's what we've been seeing in some of these storms. That severe thunderstorm warning also just getting kind of extending a bit farther to the east. You'll notice we've got a line of rain that's stretching across Missouri, stretching into southern Illinois. Here just south of St. Louis, we've got some of the heavier rain, and that's where we're seeing some of our flash flood warnings coming up there across southern Illinois as well. That rain has been coming down in buckets, and we're going to continue to see it across this region, and that's why we have those flood alerts up. Flood watches for places south of Rolla, there to the north and west of Poplar Bluff, and then stretching up into Columbus, Cincinnati, Louisville, Bloomington, and then another round of severe storms possible a little later on across the plains. We're going to stretch that across the mid-Mississippi Valley as well. So we're not done. This is just our first round of storms today, Alex. We'll have more heading into the afternoon and evening. So again, a lot more to go.
Yeah, thanks so much for getting your day going with us as we help you plan for the big events in your neighborhood.
That's right. The Weather Channel has you covered from coast to coast.
Right. Overnight howling winds, including some that reached 100 miles per hour, tore across parts of the central U.S. And now those very same storms are pushing toward the northeast and into the mid-south. So we have a lot to go through today, some of it dealing with the remnants of last night.
Yeah, those storms certainly did not hold back. That's for sure. We had a lot of areas having to do with
Weather ahead, but got some more severe storms out, the possibility for flooding that we have to talk about. We're still stuck in this kind of messy pattern for a lot of us. Here's what's happening. We've got a frontal boundary that is going to move into this hot, humid air mass. Now, the good news is behind it, for some of us, it's going to bring at least a bit of heat relief. The bad news is for others, it's going to bring that risk for flooding continuing. So flood alerts up, flood watches stretching from Columbus, Ohio, back through Evansville, all the way back into the Ozarks. That's lasting until tomorrow for some of these areas. Also, that risk for severe storms from the plains stretching across the mid-Mississippi River Valley, some damaging wind gusts, some hail, all of that possible, along with that heavy rain that could lead to some flash flooding. Let's time it out for you because we've already got some storms ongoing this morning. I'm concerned about this region right here, just to the kind of the south of St. Louis across southern Illinois. We're already seeing some flood alerts coming up there, and we've got hours of rain ahead. So if you're in southern Illinois, I want you to keep an eye on that possibility for some flash flooding because you've got hours ahead of some heavy rain possible. You'll notice heading into that 6 o'clock hour across the Ozarks, we've got those storms continuing to bubble up, and then looking back toward the west across the plains as well. So a couple different areas are going to be dealing with those storms as we're getting off of work. So maybe you had some storms for your morning commute and your afternoon commute, watching these storms progress eastward, whether it's the ones moving across Nebraska down through the Front Range or these ones moving across the Mississippi River Valley into the overnight. All of them could be a little bit on the feisty side, and we're looking at that risk for the possibility of some severe storms along the Front Range for tomorrow. We're also keeping an eye on where the storms are headed, and Dr. Posto, that is to the northeast.
Felicia, you're right about that.
It heads right back into being crazy humid. Not sure how much good the rain shower is going to do. We've got quite a bit of a rain shower and activity in our forecast coming up. Here's what's happening. We've got a frontal boundary currently moving southward, interacting with tropical moisture that's flowing out of the Gulf, flowing across the southeast. What's going to happen is that front actually ends up stalling and provides a focal point for rounds and rounds of showers as we have upper disturbances interacting with that tropical moisture, that front hanging around the same area. That is going to focus a lot of the rain over this same region. Now, we've seen quite a bit of rain in some places, coastal Virginia, coastal North Carolina, where you see the yellows. That's at least 3 to 5 inches of rain. So in some places, the ground is a bit wet, but we still are seeing drought, extreme drought for portions of South Carolina, severe to moderate drought as well. So a lot of us are really just wanting some of that rain, and we're going to get it. Luckily, we're getting it over some of the areas that really, really need it. The bad part is, though, where we're seeing some of that extreme drought, sometimes it's harder for the ground to really soak that water in quickly. So it could lead to some flash flooding issues. And that's what we're seeing as a possibility Thursday through Friday from coastal Virginia, coastal North Carolina, back through the lower Mississippi River Valley. We're continuing with that risk for some flash flooding in the forecast Friday into Saturday as well. And you see why here. We've got rounds and rounds of rain Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It is just continuing. It's going to be one of those weekends where you're going to have to plan around the showers or just plan to stay inside. Alex.
What's happening now, and it's been a bit of a stormy one for us across parts of Missouri and into Illinois. Still watching these storms dumping a lot of rain right now.
Yeah, kind of sandwiching I-70 there in between St. Louis and Kansas City. So kind of getting lucky if you're going across Missouri on that I-70 corridor. We've got some storms to the north, a severe thunderstorm warning. Monroe City, Parrish, you're included in that, as well as Shelbina until 10:15. Some gusty winds, maybe a bit of hail, certainly quite a bit of heavy rain.
And that's what we've seen here into basically Illinois, south and east of St. Louis, the Mount Vernon area. You're still under a flash flood warning. That's out here for you until 11 o'clock Central Time. We've been dealing with the rain adding up here, over 4 inches of rain. Still raining in that area as well. So they need a bit of a break, but it's not happening at this hour.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon either. The forecast does keep quite a bit of rain falling across this region. So I would watch that very carefully for some flash flooding across southern Illinois. You can see our flood watch up stretching from the Ozarks all the way up into Cincinnati and Columbus, Ohio, as rain is just going to keep falling.
Yeah, and along with more severe storms. Today's threat zones, you can see there's kind of 3 areas of more heightened risk for severe, but you can just encompass this whole zone that's shaded in a shade of red for that risk for some severe weather for the day. So getting active here yet again in some of these areas.
Yeah, you can see the storms that we've already got going. Now, that's what I'm talking about across southern Illinois. You can see we've got hours of rain ahead, still more rain kind of diving south. Then Another round of those storms.
Yeah, as we get just around the rush hour, a little bit beyond that, another batch comes across southeastern Missouri and then look back towards the west. More storms developing there.
Yeah, you're going to have those storms bubbling up in a couple different places. All of them could pack a little bit of a punch, but at a minimum, they're going to have some really heavy rain with them.
And then we do it again tomorrow. How about here? Back again. Eastern Colorado could see some strong storms. Denver included in that risk for some severe weather.
And it's not just here, Dr. Postel. We're watching all these storms roll below 90, but they were real hot for a few days.
Yeah, just truly amazing when it comes to the heat here. And, well, back to dealing with more hot times here for us again. Not as hot. Remember, we got to 120. That was kind of the peak of the heat in Vegas. Today, around 109, which is a little bit closer to your kind of typical hot Vegas temperatures.
Right. I mean, if you're going to Vegas in July, you know it's going to be hot.
Yeah.
You just don't want it up around, what, 120 or wherever we
Not
were.
at all.
We've got those high temperatures that are sticking around above average as well. We're not forgetting about you as we look through Northern California. Boise, look at this, 101 today. They've been baking as well for days and days and days.
Yeah, so we're continuing to stay pretty hot in parts of the west. Potential is there for some more record heat. Not just those high temperatures, but the overnight lows, right? As we get into the morning, you think, oh, things are cooled down.
Right.
Well, they're just not cooling down a lot. So warm low temperatures are expected in some areas in the northwest, the south, and off to the east.
Whenever we talk about the morning lows not cooling down, I always picture someone coming home sweating and they're like, oh man, sun's about to go down. I'm going to wake up, kick off my day. Fast forward, they're coming out of their house in the morning and it's like,
Yeah.
it's still hot. It's still so hot. And that's why we have these heat alert ups, because your body just can't cool off when you're dealing with something like that.
Stay hydrated as much as possible when it gets this hot.
As severe storms rumble across the plains, the threats include damaging wind and the potential for some quick spin-ups. And it's not just the plains facing the severe weather. Millions are going to have to be on alert in the northeast as storms bring damaging wind to interior parts of the region today. Hey, but that's not all, of course. Heavy rain could also stir up some big problems. We're already seeing that in some places. We're watching for the potential for flash flooding as pockets of heavy rain move in and kind of just keep coming. Let's take a look at where we have that risk for flash flooding through tomorrow. This is a large chunk of real estate stretching from the interior northeast all the way back through the plains. And then you can see where we're getting that rain already this morning. We're going to add more onto that, causing possibility of some flash flooding for the Ohio River Valley, across the mid-Mississippi as well. Places like Wichita, you have that possibility for some flash flooding. We've had rounds and rounds of rain. That's going to keep adding up. And then we've also had some severe storms around as well. Seems like maybe my graphics not moving. So Alex, I'm going to hand it over to you. I think we're going to take a look at the travel.
He's looking for rain. Most people be thinking, I'd make a deal to get great weather. For them, when you're needing rain, that is the great weather.
I think it all depends on like what you need right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you just had 17 sunny days in a row, you're like, just a little bit of rain.
Give me just a drop.
I need a good reason to stay inside and watch TV all day.
I'm right there with you. Well, head to Threads. You can send us your comments. We'd love to hear from you. Of course, we have pictures of you enjoying your deal-making weather. Send it to us as well. Use that hashtag YesTV.
Continue to be a risk, and we also continue with that risk for severe storms as we head through the next several days as well. So let's break it down for you. Here's what's going on. We've got this frontal boundary that we're watching, the one that's sweeping through, and it's going to bring a nice cool down, nice drier air across the Great Lakes region. Well, as it moves southward, it's going to interact with hot, humid air, and that is bringing us flooding concerns. Flood watches up stretching from Columbus through Cincinnati, Evansville, back through Rolla, the Ozarks getting in on that as well. That risk for severe storms is there today for another round. So we had our first round, and we're not done with that risk for severe weather just yet. Today, you can see the area here, whether you're in Paducah, St. Louis, Kansas City, and then Dodge City, North Platte, a couple different areas that we're going to watch, but really just that entire region. You got the risk for those storms getting a little feisty. Let's time it out for you. We have that line of storms kind of sandwiching I-70 this morning. We're going to watch as that rolls south towards southern Illinois. Here's where I'm a bit concerned for a bit more flash flooding here. We've already got some flash flood warnings up, and we're going to see rain for a few more hours before all is said and done. So maybe some flash flooding happening there. We'll watch as those storms get a bit feisty, whether you're talking about the plains, the front range rolling down there from the higher elevation to the lower elevation across the plains, or across the mid-Mississippi Valley into the overnight hours. Maybe some gusty winds, a bit of hail, certainly some heavy rain coming for that. We're looking at the forecast for tomorrow, that possibility for an isolated severe storm or two. Places like Scotts Bluff, we're looking at you for that damaging wind, maybe a bit of hail. And then we're continuing with that flooding risk through tomorrow from the interior northeast, stretching that all the way back through the Ohio Valley into places like Wichita. It doesn't stop there, though. We continue with that risk that stretches into the mid-Atlantic as well. So Dr. Postel, that flooding, I think, is going to become more and more of a concern because we have days and days ahead of rain. That is going to start to add up for us. We've got a couple different things coming together. We've got this cold front sliding southeastward, interacting with tropical moisture as it does. It's not sweeping through with a clean sweep, though. It's going to end up kind of washing out, hanging out, and stalling there across the southeast as a focal point for our tropical moisture. A couple different pulses of energy in the upper levels of the atmosphere are going to help to add in that rain over the next several days across where that front is stalled and for the southeast. So past 7 days of rainfall, wherever you see yellow, is at least 3 to 5 inches of rainfall. So we are going to add on to that. Some of us, though, are hoping for the rain. In fact, a lot of us across the southeast hoping for the rain, especially across the Carolinas, where we're anywhere from moderate to severe to even extreme drought for a small portion of the Carolinas. Adding rain over that. Now, that could lead to some flash flooding issues. Whenever the ground is that dry, it takes a little bit longer for that rain to actually be able to penetrate and soak in. So we've got that risk for some flash flooding here for coastal North Carolina up through coastal Virginia. We're going to stretch that back through the lower Mississippi River Valley. That's Thursday. Friday, we've got much of the same area in the risk for flash flooding because we're just going to have rounds and rounds of rain. It's not going to be raining, say, constantly, but you are going to have to plan over the next several days around those rain chances, and that sticks around heading into our weekend as well. You can see Friday into Saturday and Sunday, many of the same areas getting those rounds of rain. Alex. Pretty good trade-off.
I think I might make that deal.
Yeah, but what are you getting instead of sunshine? If you're not getting any hurricanes, you're not getting sunshine. Snow, Lance? Are you trading it for snow?
Tough one to think about. But hey,
know.
I think a lot of us would make that deal to not have to deal with hurricanes, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially us. Right?
Yes.
Makes our job really busy when we're dealing with a bunch of hurricanes.
I'm in. Count me in.
Yeah. Well, you hit the threads. You can continue to keep sending us your comments, and we will highlight more as we head.
Which is what I think we're all thankful for. We've got northwest winds bringing in drier, cooler air as we head into the second part of the week. We're looking at temperatures in the 70s, and we're not talking about your morning temperatures. We're talking about your high temperatures, which is a nice change of pace for a lot of us. But I think the biggest difference that you're going to feel, maybe not so much will be about the actual temperatures, but it might be about the dew point temperature. Look at how these dew points are dropping. Just take a look at, say, Lexington. You're going from 64 for your dew point down into the 50s. That makes such a huge difference. And then everyone who has been tired of sweating it out, take a look at this, guys. We're looking at most likely below average temperatures for a huge chunk of the country. That is my July Christmas gift to you.
Down in bunches, and we're still finding that at this hour with all that rain and more kind of building through the city off towards the north and the west, kind of arcing back towards the north and the west there. So there's a lot of heavy rain. You can see all of the different flash flood warnings that have fired up here in this zone southeast of the city.
Yeah, here's what concerns me. We've been kind of seeing these sandwich I-70 and not get across I-70. It looks to me like we're seeing this fill in kind of like an arrow pointed right over where we've got all those warnings already, and that could lead to more flooding issues.
We've been watching around Mount Vernon here. That's an area that continues to be under the flash flood warning. We continue to see it get extended. So now it's out until 1 o'clock. The reason why is because we haven't seen the rain relent. We're still finding that rain in that area. And there's also been an issue here just west of the Mount Vernon area. That's there in Washington County, where we've been talking about a dam failure taking place there. There have been some evacuation orders that have taken place as well. It's a tough situation. Even some shelters are being opened up because of that. And again, it's still raining in that area.
Yeah, it seems like a couple hundred people maybe experiencing that. It becomes a dangerous situation really quickly when you're talking about that high water rescues that are going on, about people maybe being stuck in homes with some of that water rising. Now, this says Hughley I-64 closed in both directions due to flooding between exits 50 and 61. That dam that we're talking about in Nashville, Illinois. So really concerning for the fact that we've got more pockets of heavy rain kind of heading into that area with the issues that we're already seeing.
Yeah, it's just so much rain. It just can't handle it right in that area. So we're going to watch this zone here from eastern Missouri and then tracking across the Ohio River. Those are spots through the day and into tomorrow that are holding on to flood watches. Yeah,
that's right. And not just that, but that risk for some severe storms as well. You can see a couple different areas highlighted, but really this region, the plains stretching over into the Ohio Valley, maybe some damaging winds, a bit of hail is possible. And then, of course, we're already seeing it, that flood issue.
All right, so rest of the afternoon, keep an eye here, eastern Missouri into Illinois with more rain showers and storms. That activity tries to wane a bit later today, but then watch how things light back up right in the zone, southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, and then back on into basically south portions of Kansas and into Oklahoma.
Definitely concerning to see that over the same areas, especially heading into the overnight. Dr. Postel, this isn't the
What some areas don't get in terms of high temperatures.
Right, exactly. It's just, I don't care if it's dry heat or not. That's a lot of heat
Right.
to be stuck in for days and days and days.
Well, more of it to deal with here as we head through the day. You can see the triple digits are back, but just not as crazy hot. So, you know, we were in the 1 teens, 18, 19 there around Vegas last week. Now we're around 109. Still hot, but that's Vegas hot.
10 degrees can make a big difference when you're talking about especially that dry heat. Meanwhile, let's take a look across, say, Boise. You're at 101 today. That's a little bit cooler than the 108 you were, say, earlier in the week. But they have been above 95 degrees since July 5th. So you guys have been stuck in the heat out here for quite some time as well. Probably really ready for it to cool off like a lot of other people.
You no doubt are. And you always hope to think that you'll get a chance to cool off early morning or late at night, right?
Right.
Well, a lot of us won't be doing that. We've got the potential for record warm lows. Those warm temperatures, or say low temperatures, aren't cooling off much at all in a number of spots, and so we could be breaking some records in that department.
And for a lot of us, that's some of the reason why we have these heat alerts, because it's not cooling off during the overnight hours. Excessive heat warnings, heat advisories up. And guys, when you factor in the humidity, especially across the southeast, it is just, what's a good word for that? I don't know.
Disrespectful.
Sauna. Disrespectful.
Yeah, that's it.
It's the only word for it, guys.
Don't forget our question of the day. We're asking you.
The U.S. are on alert as severe storms are rumbling across the plains. Now, threats include damaging wind and the potential for some quick spin-ups. And it's not just the plains facing severe weather. Millions will have to be on alert in the Northeast as storms bring damaging wind to interior parts of the region today. But that's not all. Heavy rain could also stir up big problems. We're watching for the potential for flash flooding as pockets of heavy rain move in. And guys, we're already seeing flooding problems this morning for portions of this area, and we are far from done with this rain. Here is where we're expecting that potential for some flash flooding. You can see from the interior northeast stretching all the way back through the plains. Of course, the darker shading of green is a slightly higher likelihood of some flash flooding, and we are certainly already seeing that for portions of southern Illinois. And Alex, we are nowhere near done. The rain with that, the storms with that for this area. So I think before all is said and done, flash flooding is going to be a big part of the weather. Throes of summer right now. Everyone's tired of the heat. A little rain.
A little rain goes a long way.
Nice. Yeah. You don't want to see too much of it, though, like we're seeing in some places.
Right, exactly. That balance. You can never get the balance.
You never get the balance.
Yeah. Well, head to Threads. Send us your comments. We'd love to hear from you. We'll continue to highlight a few as we head through the show.